Okay, so ready to dive into another case.
Always ready. What have you got for us this time?
This one takes us to small town America, Utica, New York, 2015.
Sounds peaceful enough. What happened?
It starts with Mary Yoder. She's the picture of health, the triathlete, super healthy lifestyle, eating right, taking supplements, all that.
Okay, so far so good. Doesn't sound like a case for us yet.
Right, except suddenly, Mary gets really sick, and within a matter of days, she's dead.
Oh, wow. That took a turn. What happened? What did the doctors say?
That's where things get interesting. The autopsy reveals she was poisoned.
Poisoned. Seriously, what kind of poison are we talking about?
Colchicine,
Colchicine, like the gout
the
medication.
very same.
Huh. That's not your typical everyday poison. It's not exactly easy to get your hands on either. Makes you wonder how and why.
Exactly. Someone had to go out of their way to get it.
Yeah.
So naturally, the investigation focuses on those closest to Mary.
Okay, makes sense. Family, friends, anyone who might have had a reason.
Her husband, Bill, her son, Adam, and Adam's girlfriend, Caitlin.
A girlfriend. Was this a serious relationship?
It was on again, off again. And here's another layer. Caitlin actually worked at the family's chiropractic clinic.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
So she had close access to the family A&D, their workplace. Interesting.
Right. So investigators are looking into all three of them, trying to piece together motives and opportunities. And then things take a turn. Anonymous letters start showing up.
Anonymous letters, like the creepy, threatening kind. What did they say?
They specifically targeted Adam, blaming him for Mary's death.
Whoa, someone's trying to frame him or at least make him look really suspicious.
And it gets even more detailed. The letters claim that Adam poisoned Mary by putting the colchicine into one of her supplement capsules. They even say he still has the colchicine bottle in his Jeep.
Okay, that's either a very confident attempt at framing someone or...
They're telling the truth.
Yeah.
So investigators obviously go and search Adam's Jeep. And guess what?
Don't tell me. They find the bottle.
Right where the letter said it would be.
Okay, so now they have to suspect him. Right, that's pretty incriminating.
Seems like an open and shut case. But if Adam really did poison his mother, why hold on to the evidence? And why basically lead the police straight to it?
That's what I'm thinking. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's almost like someone wanted him to get caught.
Exactly. So investigators start digging deeper. They turn their attention to the typewriter at the Yoder's office, because the letters were typed, obviously.
Ah, going old school with the investigation. So they're thinking whoever wrote those letters must have had access to that typewriter. Smart.
Exactly. They examine the typewriter ribbon and find something pretty significant.
Huh.
The addresses from the anonymous letters are imprinted on it.
Okay, so now they can narrow down who had access to the typewriter at that time. That's got to be a big lead.
A huge lead. And you know who had access to the office?
Let me guess. Caitlin.
Bingo. They bring her in for questioning, and she cracks. Confesses to writing the letters.
Whoa, hold on. She admits to writing the letters, but does she admit to the poisoning?
That's where it gets tricky. She insists that she wrote the letters because Adam is the one who poisoned Mary, claims she was terrified of him and only trying to expose his crime.
Oh, wow. So she's playing the victim card, trying to say she's a whistleblower of sorts.
Exactly. But investigators have to figure out, is she telling the truth? Or is this just another layer of manipulation?
It's like a tangled web, isn't it? And we're just getting started. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Me neither. This is one of those cases that keeps you guessing until the very end. We'll dig into the next chapter after the break.
Well, buckle up because this case goes to trial. Not just once, but twice.
2 trials. Wow, that's unusual.
Yeah.
So what happens? Do they get a conviction?
Both trials actually end in a hung jury. No conviction either time.
Wow, 2 hung juries. That's got to be pretty rare. What was holding them back from reaching a verdict?
It was a complicated case for sure. The prosecution focused on the digital trail, the email Caitlin used to buy the colchicine, and her online searches about poisons, all that stuff we talked about.
Right, right. Seemed like pretty strong evidence against her. So what was the defense's strategy?
Well, they tried a few different approaches. In the first trial, they tried to shift the blame onto Mary's husband, Bill.
Bill. Why would they point the finger at him?
They brought up his relationship with Mary's sister, trying to suggest he had a motive.
Oh, I see. Like he wanted Mary out of the picture so he could be with her sister.
Exactly. Tried to paint him as a jealous lover, but the jury didn't buy it. Then, in the second trial, they completely switched gears and tried to pin it on Adam.
Adam. Her son. Wait, how did they try to explain all the evidence pointing to Caitlin?
They actually went so far as to suggest that Adam had hacked into Caitlin's devices to frame her.
Hacking. Seriously, that seems like a pretty far-fetched claim.
It did. And the defense couldn't back it up with any real evidence. Plus, there was one major issue that they never really addressed.
What's that?
Caitlin's confession about writing those anonymous letters.
Right. Why write those letters if she's innocent? It doesn't add up.
Yeah, the defense never really offered a convincing explanation for that. And without a solid answer to that question, it seems the jury just couldn't get past the inconsistencies in her story.
So, 2 trials, 2 hung juries. A lot of finger-pointing, but no clear answers. Did they ever establish a clear motive for Caitlin?
That's another part of what makes this case so perplexing. There were theories, of course. Maybe revenge against Adam for his abusive behavior. Or a twisted attempt to get back together with him.
Trying to save him from himself by exposing him as a murderer. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Or maybe there's something else entirely that we just don't know about. Some hidden motive that never came to light.
So many possibilities. What ultimately happened with the case? Did they just give up after 2 mistrials?
Well, the jury couldn't agree on a murder charge, but in the end, they did find Caitlin guilty of manslaughter.
Manslaughter. So they still held her responsible for Mary's death, even without a murder conviction.
Exactly. And she was sentenced to 23 years in prison.
Wow. So even with all the uncertainty, there were consequences. This whole ordeal must have been incredibly tough on Mary's family.
Absolutely. Imagine losing your mother suddenly and then having your entire family dragged through 2 trials with no clear resolution. It's heartbreaking.
And you mentioned earlier that Mary's husband, Bill, was dating one of her sisters. Did that cause any tension within the family?
Oh, yeah. It definitely added to the drama. 3 of Mary's sisters are convinced that Bill is the real killer and believe Caitlin was covering for him, but the rest of the family sides with Caitlin and believes she's guilty.
So even within the family, there's no consensus on what really happened. What a mess.
Yeah, it really is. And it just goes to show, sometimes even with a trial, even with a verdict, we don't really get a neat and tidy ending, you know?
It's true. There's no real sense of closure for the family. And we're left wondering, what was the truth? What really happened to Mary Yoder?
Right. We see the evidence, we hear the arguments, but the real why behind it all, that can be elusive.
And in this case, the motive is still a bit of a mystery, isn't it? I mean, was Caitlin really trying to frame Adam out of revenge?
Maybe? Or was it, I don't know, like a really, really messed up way of trying to get back together with him?
You mean like she thought if she could expose him as a murderer, it would bring them closer?
It sounds crazy, I know, but sometimes the human psyche can be pretty twisted.
I guess we'll never really know what was going on in her head.
Right. And that's one of the things that's so fascinating and so frustrating about cases like this. We can analyze the evidence, we can look at the legal arguments, but we can't always truly understand the human heart.
So we're left with these unanswered questions, these lingering doubts. Did the jury get it right? Was justice truly served?
And even if Caitlin did poison Mary, was it a cold-blooded act of revenge? Or a desperate, misguided act of, well, I hesitate to even call it love, but...
A twisted kind of love.
yeah, something like that. It's a tough one.
It is. The poisoning of Mary Yoder, it's a reminder that things aren't always as they seem, that darkness can lurk beneath the surface, even in seemingly perfect families.
Absolutely. It makes you think, who can you really trust?
And sometimes, even when the legal system runs its course, the truth remains elusive.
If anyone wants to dive deeper into this case, by the way, there's a great documentary on Hulu called Little Miss Innocent.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. It really lays out all the twists and turns of the investigation and the trials.
So for our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you think Caitlin was a master manipulator or a victim of circumstance? Was she driven by revenge or something else entirely?
Let us know what you think. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms.
And as always, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Until next time.